The Starfield ratings just dropped, and there's already a ton of controversy around it. There's also some details around a possible space station location and what that might look like. What's up, brothers? Super back in another video, and today we're checking out all things Starfield. And first up, we'll just talk about the age rating stuff because it did drop in Australia, and there is some controversy around it and some serious takes on it and stuff of that nature. And so it did end up getting a restricted status in Australia because of one main variable. And that is, of course, the space skooma use, and I think you know what I'm talking about with that. But we'll just go over the specifics of what the rating got in Australia. Now, to note, they are a little bit harsher over there, so some of this stuff might not be as far as what it really is. However, this does give us a good direction for what the game will possibly be given the parameters around this, or at least what the boundaries might be for the game. Now for themes, it did get a moderate impact, so not too far advanced. Obviously, that's not something that's going to be crazy. It's not a crazy theme. It's space exploring, so there's nothing too much there. Now another obvious one is violence. Violence got a strong impact, which I'm surprised it didn't get a high impact, but that's probably because there's not a lot of gore and things of that nature. Now for language, it also did get a moderate impact, and again, I'm surprised there's no strong impact there, but maybe the dialogue options are a little bit more tamed down. Again, this does give us a little bit of things here. The language isn't, if it's only moderately impacted, not high impact, there's probably not a lot of swearing, there's not a lot of things there, although there might be because it's a moderate impact. But there won't be any crazy, again, going back to the themes as well, because themes and language kind of go together, there's not going to be any wildly obtuse themes, or anything that's just out of the ordinary. I would say cyberpunk would probably be a strong impact on themes and a strong impact with language somewhat, but maybe a moderate impact. So it seems like it's going to be somewhat in between there. Now as far as the space skooma use, and I think you know what I'm talking about with that, that is where it got the high impact because there's probably a lot of space skooma and all of that nature, all of that stuff that you can utilize to boost your character in certain ways, either whether it's damage or different things. And there's always been Skyrim, Oblivion, even going back all the way to Morrowind, there's always been this this type of aspect in these games where you can utilize certain scrolls or certain skooma stuff, certain things that will improve your performance. Again, I'm kind of beating around the bush here, but I don't want to get too close to YouTube's demonetization things and just of that nature. So you know what I'm talking about as far as that goes for that theme. Now another one that's controversial is the exposure, and I think you know what I mean when it means to expose. Exposure, there's not much of it. There's a very mild impact of it, so it seems like people are going to be fully clothed and there's not going to be a lot cyberpunkish where it's very in your face. Which, again, has always kind of been the case with Morrowind and Skyrim and Oblivion games. It's always been the case there where it just hasn't been this kind of forefront in your face with all that stuff. It's always been kind of tame in that department, but of course modders are going to get access to this game, and that's going to be completely out of the water as soon as it happens. And they know that. They love the modding community. They don't really care about all this stuff. They care about it in a sense that they want people to mod. They don't care if people do this type of stuff. So again, that's all going to be there probably in the first days or so. There'll probably already be a crazy mod that lets you do whatever you want in that department. And that does lead us on to the next sort of discussion, which is the fun time with another person or another relation, a fun time with them. It's probably not going to be in the game at all. In fact, there is literally none for the rating, so I would assume it's not going to be in the game at all. And again, this is not like Cyberpunk. There is no scenes like Cyberpunk has. And there's never really been this type of thing in any of the Bethesda games, as far as I could think of, in any game really. It always is a cut to black, like people were saying. It's usually a cut to black scene. You don't really know what's going on, so it's kind of just implied you know what happens and doesn't really get into it. Again, nowhere near what Cyberpunk is. And that's kind of where the controversy has been around, is that there isn't a lot of that type of stuff and that the exposure stuff is very limited. Also, people wondering if the language and themes moderately impacts means there's some sort of censorship. Now there has been a few posts about it, mostly just joking, but some people are genuinely upset because they thought it was going to be closer to a Cyberpunk, at least as far as that aspect goes. And there has also been some discussion around the maybe possible censorship of the discussion because of it being only a moderate impact for language and things of that nature. But hopefully they still have some of that edgy humor that Bethesda games have had, and at least keeping it somewhat tame. But we also got to talk about the Sony stuff, because Sony is not happy with what's going on in the Starfield universe. They are not happy that Xbox has the exclusive. And it seems like after Deathloop and Ghostwire, Sony was trying to get some exclusives with Bethesda in the future as well. And it seems like with the Microsoft acquisition, that completely ruined their plans. Now, these were just going to be timed exclusives, and that's what Starfield was going to be as well. And even with some of the comments here, people are in agreement. Sony has kind of started this fight overall, and they've not really been the good guys. They've been against cross-platform, they've been against cross-play. A lot of games, like even Fallout 76, doesn't have cross-platform because of Sony. Some games, like I think even Destiny, had issues with cross-progression, and that is because of Sony as well. Also, Sony didn't want mods on the consoles at all. They were pushing back so hard against the mods, and so it's like this company has not been very consumer friendly as far as it goes for a lot of different things. Especially when crossplay is such a big part of games now and everything of that nature. It's just been so like apparent in the recent years. It really does feel like Sony is far behind in this category, so it's hard to feel bad for them for not getting this exclusive and Microsoft getting it. Again, I'm on PC, so I kind of get a win-win here. But I know for some, there was a lot of comments around there, a lot of back and forth from the Sony PlayStation fanboys, and a lot of back and forth on that aspect on the Reddit. Whereas it seems like the general and at least majority take is that this is Sony's fault and they were playing a game that they ended up losing. Now we do have some imagery here for the space station that was shown off in some of the trailers, and somebody kind of pointed out that it might actually be a symbol located inside the trailer itself. This might be the symbol for the space station. Now we'll kind of showcase some awesome imagery here for that space station and what the symbol might look like to get back to your space station. There's a lot of different icons to delve into within the trailers, etc., and all this stuff has kind of been showcased in this one image here, at least with different locations. Well, this game has been super secretive on all the different aspects of it, and the trailers have only shown so much, and I kind of do appreciate that. It really does leave it open-ended, and it really does let the experience on the user's end. But we'll have to see what this all leads to, especially with the rating and all the different stuff with Sony not being happy, and we're gonna have to see with the Microsoft acquisition if it actually goes through. But I am quite curious on what you guys think about all this, because the Reddit has been kind of on fire, and there's been multiple postings about this restricted status in Australia for the different themes, and if the themes are too light and all that nature. So I want to know what you guys think about that. I also wanted to hear from you guys if you're actually buying an Xbox just for this game or buying a PC. I know there's been a lot of stuff there, people just buying a whole new platform just so they can play the game, as well as finding out that Sony might not be so mod friendly anyways, and Xbox certainly is, or at least has been in the past. Also, are you worried about the themes being seemingly more tamed, or maybe even less tamed? Maybe they're more out there? But that does about cover it for today's video, and if you liked it, like, and subscribe, and until the next one. Deuces.